Welcome to Ask the Experts, where each week we talk to people in the industry, get that inside word on what's happening right now, what that means for the tactics you should use to make the most of your money. Now, here is a scary stat for you. There's research that shows your money personality is already set, done, dusted by the time you're 7. 7. That is incredibly young, and honestly, it's far before most parents are thinking about teaching their kids about money. So, does that mean we're stuffed if we haven't learned about compounding interest by the time we're 3? What should we be teaching our kids? How can we help ourselves as well? Especially if you're thinking back and thinking, well, actually, there's some things I wish I could unlearn from those early years. Well, we're going to figure all of this out because I've partnered up with Kiwibank, who's lent me their expert, Julia Jackson, who is all over this issue, how we can do a bit better with it.
Making Sense is on a mission to make money simple, and I just couldn't do that without the support of Kiwibank. It's really important to me to only work with companies that understand that mission and the difference it makes when you understand the money world. For Kiwibank, their purpose is to help Kiwi and Aotearoa be better off. So bringing you real stories of inspirational and unconventional approaches to finance is one of the ways they're making a real difference to the lives of their customers. This is making Kiwi better off. This is Kiwi.
All right. Hi, Julia. Welcome on. I'm really pleased to be talking to you about this because I get so many questions about it. So much of how we handle our money starts quite young. So how early in life do we need to be starting on this in order to be sort of, the good with money?
Yeah, look, and this is one of those things, right? You're a parent, I'm a parent. We know that there's so many different ways you can go about this. So I'm not coming here to tell you by, the age of 1.5, your child should be, navigating their own finances, doing chores and earning pocket money. I think it's really about figuring out what is right for you and your own family. Mm-hmm. My key thing about it, though, is kids are going to get exposed to money no matter what you do. And that's what that research is showing, right? By the age of 7, when, of course, they're not earning their own money yet by then, but they have still solidified some of those attitudes to money, whether you're a saver or a spender, whether you're happy to, delay gratification when the Easter bunny comes, save some of your Easter eggs and eat them next week, or you're going to eat them all on the day. Those types of things are what we're talking about when we're talking about attitudes to money. Those flow through to how you actually approach money. So whether or not we like it, these behaviours are getting solidified. So actually starting the conversation early, talking to your kids about money in a way that's appropriate for the age and stage is really important. And that can start as early as you want in some ways.
You have triggered an absolute memory there just by comparing money to chocolate. It's really funny. My parents used to go to, there's this chocolate factory down near Wellington. I don't even know if it still exists. I haven't been there in ages, but I hope it still exists. It was great. And they would give us $5. So there's inflation for you. That wouldn't get you far these days. And it was $5, get whatever kind of chocolate you want, but you have to make it work. And me and my sister would be running around this chocolate factory, the shop, trying to tot up these things to get it exactly $5 and get the absolute max. And then it was a competition of who could make that chocolate last the longest. And I would hide mine down the back of my sock straw because mine, I would eke it out for so long until the chocolate turned spotty. And my sister would try to steal it.
Okay, so role reversal was me and my sister. Exactly the same. The irony is, and this is an interesting thing, is now if I look at myself in my money personality, I would say I'm definitely a saver. I'm not a spender. So what that is because I've had lots and lots of opportunities throughout life to learn about money and sort of interact with it in different ways. So whilst I say start young, start early, the attitudes are solidified by the time you're 7, or you're starting to form by the time you're 7 is probably a better way of putting it, because it doesn't mean if you've got a 10-year-old and you've never talked to him about money, it doesn't mean there's no point in engaging in that conversation, right? It's not a done deal. But exactly that, right? We do have these attitudes that are innate in us from a very young age.
I love that actually, because that's something I was going to ask you later, but let's skip to it now, because I do think there is this pressure with everything parenting and kids to be like, get it perfect, get it right the first time, or you've screwed them up for life. And yes, of course, it's better to get it right the first time, anything in life. But if you are coming to this and you're listening to this and your kids are 12 or 15 or whatever, there are still opportunities to start course correcting and start dealing with that, right? It is an ongoing process.
Totally. And I mean, that's part of it, right? So because one of the important things is that kids will observe money, whether you talk to them explicitly about it or not, right? They will have seen how you're managing your money. So if you haven't ever had a conversation with your kids and they are in that older space, that's maybe where I'd start. I'd start having a really honest conversation with them. Hey, what do you think about money? What are your attitudes to money? How have you seen us doing it, and engage them in that conversation, because also they're that little bit more mature where they probably are able to give you a bit of critical thinking about it. And then it's about going, well, what age and stage are they at? Are they starting their first job maybe? And so then you can contextualize the conversation for them. We did some research a while ago with the University of Canterbury, actually with our partners Banker, who are a financial education platform running in schools. The most important thing around whether it sticks, i.e. whether the kids actually take on board the education and actually apply it to their own decision-making, their own thoughts, their own life, is making sure that it's at stage appropriate. So there's no point in talking to a 5-year-old about their first job and how they might, how much of their income they're going to put into a savings account, as opposed to how much they might want to spend at the dairy on lollies the next week. Not 5-cent lollies anymore, because of course inflation.
Those are the days.
Those are the days, yeah, it would have been great. But there is, for a 14-year-old, when they're getting that first paycheck, use that as an opportunity to go, hey, here's how much money you've earned. That was an exchange for the time that you gave to doing that job. And how do you think we should break this down? And, use those opportunities as real learning moments with your kids. But kids are smarter than we give them credit for, right? Like they're so onto it, and they're little sponges that pick up so much. So don't be afraid of having that conversation about money with them. And don't be afraid of also you don't have all the answers. I think that can be a good thing, right? And maybe that's where you guys could sit down as a fun family activity of learning about money together. You could actually make these things quite enjoyable. It's about normalizing the conversation about money. I think that's the key point, because whether we have an overt conversation about it or not, our kids are going to get exposed to money. So as parents, I think one of the best things we can do is actually engage in that conversation with our kids.
I think that's spot on, right? Because there's so much when you think about it and you watch kids growing, they are picking up things all the time. It's the classic that kids don't do what you tell them to do. They do what they see you doing. Chelsea from our friends at Kiwibank has all the hot tips on what banks really look for when applying for a home loan. And frankly, I'm stoked to hear your avocado isn't under threat. Want more? Check out the episode from 22nd May called What the Bank Wants to Know Before It Approves Your Mortgage. This is making Kiwi better off. This is Kiwi. When it comes to money, how much are we soaking up from what is just around us? And how do we try to take control of some of those influences around our kids?
Yeah, great question. And this really sort of comes into sort of money personalities and all of the different factors that are influencing your money personality. And culture, it plays a massive role in your money personality. So again, this is where, every parent will be operating in a different cultural context. So it's not for me to say, here's the 3 things you should be doing that are right for you. It's about understanding the culture that you come from, understanding what you learned as a kid. What type of financial education did you have? Did you get any? Taking that time to pause and reflect and think about yourself as well, I think can be a really important one, because again, those things that you might never have actually actively thought about. Are you a spender? Are you a saver? Are you a risk taker? Like those are the types of things that your kids will pick up on and absorb and take on themselves often. Your own experiences and personality around money is a really important starting point. If you've got a partner, their money personality and their approach to money, you as a family, what your approach to money is, all of those things are going to be things that your kids will pick up on and will internalize themselves as well.
People talk about how can I help my kids with money? How can I educate them about money? And depending a little bit on how old the kid is, right? Because that does, of course, change the stage. But I actually think one of the best things you can do is, rather than trying to educate your child about money, have you made sure that you're confident with money? Have you educated yourself? Have you got your own plan in place? And then how can you bring your kid along with that? Having those discussions, as you say, with your partner or whoever in front of them, making that a normal part of their life. That is part of how you normalize that and make it a less of a fraught topic that your kid, hopefully, if you're feeling confident about it, they absorb that confidence from you. What do you think?
Yeah, I 100% agree. Money is something that we all interact with every single day. It's not something that only experts can be good at, right? All of us can be good at managing money, making it work for us and whatever that means for us. But so much of the rhetoric around money and finances, I think over the years, it has been, it's jargon, it's confusing. You have to be good at maths. Stockbrokers in the New York, we've all got these images of people who work in finance who are sort of highly intelligent and expert. It's not your everyday person, right? But actually, take a step back. We all make decisions every single day about how much of your income that you earn are you going to spend on groceries? How much is going to rent? How do you balance that and all that sort of stuff? So taking the time to understand money, I think, is really important, and not being afraid of it. So not feeling like, if I didn't get financial education when I was a kid, I'm always going to be bad with money. That's so wrong. And there's so many things like your podcast, and there's awesome resources out there that can help people to really understand their money. And then I think, if we bring it back to kids, sort of what I said before, like, engage your kids in that learning journey with you. Maybe you all sit down and go, hey, here's our family budget. Here's some decisions that we have to make. We might want to go on a holiday, but actually that might mean making this trade-off. So how would we start to do that? And you could say to them, this is the first time I'm doing a budget, so help me here. You don't have to be an expert in everything, but it is really important to start.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, often people will ask for guidance of, oh, my kid is this old. How do I talk to them about money? And any parent can tell you, especially if they've got multiple kids, actually kids develop at such different rates. From my point of view, I feel like it's less, there's no sort of standard of, okay, when they're 4, you need to talk to them about this. When they're 12, you need to talk to them about this. But you'll get a feeling for what interests your kid and how it is relevant to their lives. So you can do things when they're younger, like running around the supermarket and saying, hey, we need a can of spaghetti. Can you find me the best deal? Which one's got the lowest number? Yada, yada. Or when they're a bit older and they're earning, you might say, hey, you've got a part-time job now. Let's talk about your KiwiSaver. Yay for the changes where 16 and 17-year-olds actually get something back from that now. So, looking at ways where it's relevant to their life and having those conversations as they come up. And I think if you've got the confidence in your money as a parent, then that will, again, make you feel more equipped to be talking to your kid as money comes up in their life and having those conversations where it's relevant to them. Do you think?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think that's so true. And I think you're right. Like, giving kids the opportunity to actually engage with money and make their own decisions is really a really important part of that. So again, to your supermarket example, that might be doing that when they're slightly older. You could go, hey, actually, normally we spend $10, $15 on dinner. Let's give my kid $15 and see what they buy at the supermarket. And if that is dinner, and then we have to eat it as a family, and you might have a terrible dinner for once, or it might be okay, but at least the kid is going to learn the value of money. And I think that's one of the things in this environment for kids growing up, now, that is one of the things that is quite different and challenging to 20, 30 years ago when we were growing up, when there was still a lot more cash. So kids these days are growing up in a digital currency. Money is quite an esoteric concept to them. It's not physical. So finding ways, again, that are age appropriate, that you can help contextualize the concept of money and make it really clear for them. So that value exchange, that's why the can of spaghetti or an entire dinner, if you're brave enough, is a good thing, right? Because our kids understand that concept. They understand the concept of eating a meal and what they might normally get on the family table. But when they go out and they might want to buy a tub of ice cream and, I don't know, 1 can of spaghetti or something, then they'll get a pretty pathetic dinner.
Or a delicious dinner, depending on how you're feeling. Carbs and sugar. I mean, let's see where I'm at in my cycle. I might be really into that.
That's true. It's probably not a great long-term strategy maybe to give your kids the budget for the family dinners, but every now and then it'll work. But, it does allow them to actually understand that value of money. And I think that is one of the things that can really help build sort of solid money foundations from an early age. I know some people, they choose to, give pocket money in cash for that very same reason. And so the kids can actually hold a dollar bill or a coin and feel what that looks like to them, take it to the dairy, spend their money, get the coins back, do the calculation on, actually, I've already spent, 80% of that week's pocket money.
I love it. There's so much to dig into here. Look, we've run out of time on this one, but good news is we're going to come back to Julia because she has amazing tips on how we can take concrete action on this issue. So make sure you hit subscribe so that you'll hear when her next episode drops. This is a massive issue. We get so many questions on this. You're going to get the inside word on this one. Until then, if this episode was helpful to you, send it to a friend so we can all do better with our money together. And until next time, have a great day.
Just a note before you go. This podcast can only give you general information about how things work in most cases. It's not individual financial advice. We're all different, so some of this might not apply to your specific situation. Take what works for you, ignore the rest. If you're after individual financial advice, a financial advisor is always the best bet.